Hello, my name is Kevina. There is a lot of information on how often we should eat and how frequently we should eat. In this video, I'm going to talk about why you should not eat too soon after a standard meal and why you should not over delay to grab your next meal. And I hope that you will be able to estimate the ideal time lag between your meals. There is varying opinion about how long one should wait before taking his or her next meal. Whereas some experts suggest a waiting time of 2 hours, others suggest 3 hours. In some cases, experts do advise us to stick to 3 meals a day. And on the extreme, there are experts who even suggest up to 6 frequent meals in a day. The truth is that there is no standard waiting time for one to have their next meal. This is because people are different, and therefore, how long they should wait, how much food they eat, should also be different because of the differences in age, sex, nutritional status, physiological status, as well as the level of physical activity. Ideally, for a healthy person of average energy requirements, about 3 to 5 hours after a standard meal is sufficient for you to take the next meal. This is because digestion in the stomach lasts for about 3 to 5 hours, and that means that after this period of time, your stomach is ready to receive new food. By this time, the stomach has emptied most of its contents into the duodenum, and it will naturally get ready to receive the next food that you are going to eat. About 5 hours after a meal, your blood glucose levels are low, and a certain hormone called ghrelin is secreted into your blood. This particular hormone stimulates the walls of the stomach to contract, and those contractions will give you a physical sensation of hunger. In addition to that, hunger could also be caused by psychological factors such as sight of food, smell of food, and the thought of food. Besides, whenever the stomach gets empty, it will secrete digestive juices, and that is a biological alert that it is time for you to grab your next meal. What happens in case you eat too soon after a standard meal? First of all, the next meal will add to the first peak of glucose, which is still present from your previous meal. And this will result in high levels of glucose in blood, which is a risk factor for development of diabetes. This happens because the pancreas gets overburdened to keep secreting large amounts of insulin. And in the end, the pancreatic cells may get dysfunctional. And as a result of the overload of glucose in blood, there could be overweight since the excess sugars are converted to fat for storage, which will make us, gain weight. There are people who wait for too long before they take their next meals. For instance, there are people who wait for even up to 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, and others do not even eat. The reasons as to why they do that is best known to them. Sometimes they are busy, so they do not have time to eat. At times, they just cannot have physical access to food. And then sometimes, this skipping of meals is intentional. and I would call that starvation. Perhaps in a bid to lose weight. So someone goes for, prolonged periods of time without eating. When you stay for long hours without food, your blood glucose levels fall, and this will cause your brain to slow down, leading to lack of concentration, loss of focus, you become irritable, and definitely your metabolic rate will also slow down. The fall in the levels of sugars in your blood will stimulate your body to secrete a number of hormones, which ideally should help the body to compensate for the low levels of sugar. And these hormones in the blood will increase blood pressure. The combined effect of low blood sugars and high blood pressure can cause migraines, which is characterized by severe headache, nausea, lightheadedness, irritability, mood swings, sweating, and even loss of consciousness. In addition to all this, skipping meals can also lead to a bad breath. What happens here is that due to reduced levels of sugars in your blood, the body will switch to fats for energy production. A byproduct of the keto acids that are produced when the body metabolizes fat for production of energy include acetone, which have an unpleasant smell. Additionally, during starvation, the salivary glands reduce the production of saliva, and yet we know that saliva is very important when it comes to flushing away the bad bacteria, which in times of starvation, the saliva is very low, and therefore the bacteria will multiply, causing us to have a bad breath. The other thing is that the stomach is actually programmed to produce digestive juices, whether we have eaten or not. So when the stomach gets empty, it will produce these juices. One of the contents of these digestive juices is acid. So when food is absent in the stomach, the enzymes that are present are of course going to start digesting, but this time what do they digest? They will digest the walls of the stomach, and that could result in ulcers. Additionally, a buildup of these digestive juices will result in gastritis, acid reflux, and worse still, even cancer. The other thing is that after starvation, people tend to eat out of proportion. Now, this stuffing of the stomach will overstretch the stomach, and it will push the contents of the stomach, those are the digestive juices, upwards towards the esophagus, and that will cause heartburn, which is very undesirable. Finally, in this video, when you take too long without having your next meal, ideally your body will push you, to take in a lot of food in order to compensate for that period during which your body was starving. So the result is that you will actually take in a lot of food, which will definitely cause overweight and obesity. One thing that most people ask is that why is it that they tend to gain weight even when they starve? The answer to that is very simple. It is actually true that starvation could lead to weight gain, contrary to what we think, because of this notion that the more energy you take in, the more weight you gain. And so we would ideally expect that the less energy we take in, the less weight we gain. But on the contrary, starvation could actually cause you to gain weight. What happens is this, that at first, after you have starved, your body will tend to lower its metabolic rate in order to preserve the energy that it needs to run only the vital functions of your body. And you might be able to lose a few kilograms until you start to eat again. Now, as soon as you eat, your body will naturally respond by storing as much food as it can, because the body believes that there will be another episode of starvation. In addition to that, the body will naturally tend to recover the lost calories, and as such, you will end up eating out of proportion. And as a result of that, you will not only gain the weight that you lost, but you will even gain much more weight than before. In a nutshell, starvation only leads to a cycle of starvation and high calorie intake, which makes weight loss a vision that is very hard. Leaving that aside, there are much better ways to manage your weight minus having to skip your meals. And I will share 10 of them with you right now. First of all, make a meal plan and stick to it. When you have a meal plan, you will not eat at random, and most importantly, you'll be able to keep track of what you are eating and how much you are eating. Secondly, concentrate on your meals. When it's time for meals, please let it be food. Stay away from many sources of distraction. Okay, stay away from the TV, put the novel aside, leave the video games, and just eat so that you are able to monitor what you are eating. A recent study has actually confirmed that a number of people who do not concentrate on their meals do not follow how much they eat, and at the end, they end up eating too much food. The other one is that we should take a lot of water. Okay, instead of the sugary drinks after food, just take water because it is much more healthy. When you take drinks that have a lot of sugar, remember we've talked about the glycemic indices and its impact on weight gain. Eat foods that are rich in fiber, such as fruits and vegetables. The advantage of these types of food is that, first of all, they have low glycemic indices, and then secondly, such foods keep us full, so that way you not feel hungry very often, and you will definitely manage the intake of food. Then the other one is that you should manage stress. Remember, we have said earlier on that stress is one of the main causes of weight gain. There is a certain hormone called cortisol, which is associated with increased appetite, and that hormone is secreted in large amounts when an individual is under stressful moments. The other one is that we should eat foods that have low glycemic indices. Remember, we said foods that have high GIs actually tend to predispose us to weight gain and obesity. Another one is that we should eat slowly. When you eat very fast, you tend to over increase the amount of sugars in your blood, which will be converted to fat and definitely stored. And that will definitely lead to weight gain. Then eat with like-minded friends. If your goal is to manage your weight, then eat around people who have a similar goal. A recent study, by the way, has also confirmed that we tend to eat the way people around us are eating. So if you spend most of your eating time around friends who are, mindful of their weight, then you will also reap, you'll be able to manage the amount of food that you take in. Do not eat from containers. When you eat from containers, you are bound to eating lots of food, than you actually want to. Remember, I mentioned earlier on that one of the causes of hunger is actually psychological. which can include sight or smell of food. So when you eat from a container, you will respond to the psychological causes of hunger, which actually is not a true indication that your body needs food. Remember, we should only respond to the biological causes of hunger and not psychological. Then finally, manage the portion size of your meals. If your aim is to cut down on your weight, then definitely you should also cut down on the amount of food that you eat at every meal, but do not skip any meal. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Keep watching Kevina Talk.